So when you think about high school horror stories, your mind probably jumps to ghost legends, right? Whispers about something spooky happening in the old auditorium. But today, we're diving into a different kind of horror. The kind that sits right next to you in biology. The kind that knows your locker combination. We're talking about stories where the real monsters are people.
You know, one person shared this story about skipping class and hiding out in this creepy, unfinished school bathroom. They heard someone walk right up to their stall door, and then the lights just clicked off, and the person was just gone. It's a seriously unsettling story. But what if that person hadn't vanished? What if they stayed? That's where the truly terrifying stories begin. Not with a ghost, but with a simple hello from a classmate.
All right, let's get into it. Here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll talk about why high school is the perfect storm for this stuff. Then, we'll look at two chilling cases where friendship got really twisted. After that, a story about a teacher who betrayed trust, and another about a stalker who just wouldn't go away. Then we'll connect all the red flags, and finally, we'll talk about the impact, the echo, these things leave behind.
Look, high school is so much more than just tests and teen angst. It's this incredibly complex social world. And in that world, learning to navigate relationships can be intense. Sometimes, that little voice in your head, your intuition, is the most important thing you have.
And that gut feeling is the single thread that connects every single story we are about to unpack. It's that little alarm bell that goes off in your stomach that tells you, hey, something isn't right here, even if your brain can't quite put its finger on why. For every person in these stories, that feeling was the very first warning sign.
So let's jump into our first two stories. What's so wild about them is that they both start with a simple act of kindness, just being friendly to somebody who's new, and seeing how fast that can spiral into something really dark and controlling.
Okay, so we're looking at two really similar situations. In one, a girl just tries to be welcoming to a new student. In the other, a girl befriends a lonely kid and eats lunch with him. Both start with simple kindness. Both end in absolute terror. Now, check out how quickly this escalated. In the first month, it's just a new kid she's helping out, who gets a little weird, playing with her hair. Annoying, but whatever. The next month, he wants to play a game. And then, the reveal. He shows her a bag of her hair he's been collecting and knife scars on his arm and tells her he now owns her soul. And that list of her loved ones, that's now his weapon.
Those were his words. You are mine now. He took her kindness, that list of names she wrote down in a game, and turned it into blackmail. I mean, can you imagine? Thankfully, she immediately ran to the office and reported him, and he was expelled that very day. But that feeling of fear, that doesn't just go away. So in this second story, the aggression starts small. He gets possessive about who she eats lunch with. Then it gets physical. He grabs her. Then it goes digital with these nasty anonymous emails. And the story takes this incredibly tragic turn years later, which just underscores how deeply disturbed this person really was.
And this quote, this says it all, doesn't it? He felt she owed him friendship. It wasn't a gift. It wasn't a two-way street. In his mind, it was a debt. It's such a chilling and entitled way to view other human beings.
All right, let's shift gears a little. We've talked about peers. But what happens when the danger comes from someone you're supposed to trust? Someone in a position of authority. This next story is about a teacher who hid something awful behind a charming smile.
The person telling this story said right from the beginning that Mr. F's charm just felt forced. See, there's that intuition again. And as the year went on, that mask started to slip. He got more aggressive, went on weird rants, and then the reports started coming in from female students. And in the end, their gut feelings were proven right in the worst possible way.
Okay, this next one. This one is pure nightmare fuel. It's a story that starts with some creepy texts and ends with someone standing outside your house in the middle of the night. It shows just how fast that line between digital harassment and physical danger can get erased.
So you can see the relentless climb here. It starts with texts that are just way too much. Then she starts physically following him, and not just in the halls, into the boys' bathroom. But the final jump, the one that changes everything, is when she shows up at his home in the dead of night.
Can you even imagine getting that text at 2 o'clock in the morning? At first, he thinks she's just talking crazy, that she has no idea where he lives. But he climbs out his window for a smoke, and he sees a figure standing across the street, motionless, in the snow. Just absolutely terrifying.
Okay,
So we've heard these individual stories, and they are all horrifying in their own unique way. But what connects them? Let's take a step back and look at the patterns, the warning signs that were there in every single one of these cases. You see these behaviors again and again. Sally talking about marriage right away, that's intense, early declarations. The friendship deck guy, a massive sense of entitlement. The soul collector jumped straight to threats. And all of them, every single one, ignored boundaries and made the person on the other end feel deeply, deeply uncomfortable.
And what's really fascinating is when you actually map it all out visually like this. Ignoring boundaries and escalating attention. Those two are universal. They're in all 4 stories. Then you see possessiveness and threats pop up as the next step in these obsessive peer relationships. This isn't random. It's a playbook for predatory behavior.
So why is it so important to see these patterns? Because the story doesn't just end when the person gets expelled or when you graduate. These experiences, they leave a mark. They leave a lasting echo.
This is from the narrator who dealt with the soul collector. Her kindness, her open-hearted nature was used against her, and that experience literally changed her personality. That is the real-world, long-term damage this stuff causes. It fundamentally rewires your sense of safety in the world.
And if you boil it all down, there was one tool, just one, that every single one of these people had from the very beginning. It was that feeling, that gut instinct that something was wrong. Whether it was charm that felt forced or just a vibe that was off, it was there before the big threats ever started. And that really brings us to the final thought here. What these stories teach us, more than anything, is that learning to listen to that inner voice, to honor that feeling of discomfort, it's one of the most important survival skills you can ever have. It isn't about being scared of ghosts in the bathroom. It's about navigating the very real dangers that walk among us every day.